Welcome to the Real News Network. I'm Paul Jay. We're in Manchester, New Hampshire. Now joining me in the studio is Ellen Ratner. Again, thanks for joining us again.
Thank you.
Again, you have a new company name.
Talk Media News.
Talk Media News. And Ellen Ratner is one of the queens of talk radio and has been doing talk radio news coverage in D.C. for years. You've been covering New Hampshire since the early 90s.
I've been on radio since September 17th, 1991.
Right, and you were here in first time in New Hampshire at what year?
I think 96.
96. So
20 years in New Hampshire, every 4 years.
So if you watch Fox News, who still believe they're going to have to face Hillary, they're saying the Hillary campaign's in disarray, it's in trouble, they have to. There's been a lot of talk the last couple of days, not just on Fox, about having to redo their campaign team. And what happened in New Hampshire, in fact, is dramatic. They were, because Sanders has been ahead for, I don't know, a couple of months, it doesn't have the same climax that one would have if this had been a tight race. And so because expectations have been here for a while, it doesn't seem so dramatic. But go back 6 months, 8 months, this is dramatic because nobody thought Sanders would have a hope here.
Everybody excused Bernie Sanders as a left-wing, hopeless socialist.
So we just found out New Hampshire likes left-wings, hopeless socialists. The question now of the rest of the country, and the question you raised with me when you sat down, is the Clinton campaign in some trouble here?
Well, if the numbers hold, and if there is this, we took a little prediction, and you predicted, there's this 16-point spread, really anything over 10, 12% spread, which is what he was expected to do. It means that her message isn't getting out to people, and she either has to re-message a little bit, she has to, I don't think it helped in this state, which hasn't put anybody to death since the 1930s, that she came out at the debate and said she was pro-death penalty. It hasn't worked in the state of New Hampshire. So she wasn't, Tip O'Neill, who was Speaker of the House, said all politics is local. And she was in a New Hampshire debate, and she came out for the death penalty in a state that hasn't executed, even though it's on the books.
But it is her position. She had to say it. So.
Well, she should. I would have modified it. If I were her, I would have said, in the past I have been for the death penalty. Let's look at New Hampshire, where I am now.
But then she's going to have to live with that in other states that are pro-death penalty.
Well, I understand.
It's interesting when you look at American opinion on issues. The significant majority, sometimes as high as 60%, 55, 60, 65, is liberal to progressive on almost every issue but the death penalty. There it's about 50-50.
Right, I understand.
But that being said, it kind of suggests that it wasn't so much that Clinton's message wasn't getting out, because you talk to Sanders voters, they made a very conscious choice to go with the left-wing loser socialist who turned out not to be a loser.
Well, what's interesting? I was on this area with you. This is part of Talk Media's production that you're part of. And so we got a lot of the same surrogates. And I have to say, I listened to a lot of the Hillary surrogates, and they really do believe that she's extremely smart and that she's extremely competent. I don't think anybody questions that. So is it her smartness, her competence to get the job done, or is it that she doesn't have the message where some Americans are so unhappy right now?
My own interaction with Sanders supporters is that they're more sophisticated than I would have. I'm not surprised. A lot of people are suggesting. They are clearly getting the message that it's about the billionaire class, and they knew it before. It wasn't Sanders told them something they hadn't heard. For the first time, they heard someone say something they were already thinking. And I think it's that. I think there's a certain amount of education maybe Sanders doing on some issues. People are learning. It's resonating because it's obvious the problem's the billionaire class. I mean, who doesn't know that? Even the billionaires know it. And they fight amongst themselves. Oh, but I'm one of the good billionaires. But what do I think, and tell me what you think, that the Clinton campaign's a little cornered here. Like if you accuse Bernie and say, oh, you took Wall Street money too, which is their response to taking Wall Street money, then you are saying Wall Street money is taking it's not good. But she took so much more, and it's not clear he actually took any. Apparently, some money he got, he donated somewhere. It's not clear that he actually ever did take any Wall Street money.
Well, today, the Drudge Report, that right wing, and I mean, they did an unfair slam on Hillary today. I thought the picture they put up was mean as a snake, etc. But one of the things they did do is they talked about her speeches and people's reaction to her speeches. When she said she'd look into it the other night in terms of her Goldman Sachs speech.
Yeah, releasing the transcripts, yeah. Look into it means no, but I'll say look into it. Yeah.
Right.
But I have to say on that, who cares what she said? It's not about what she said. It's about she took the money. She could have gone in there and talked about how to play horseshoes. It doesn't matter.
I disagree,
It's the fact
actually.
they gave her all this money. No, I think she should release it. But let's say all she went in and talked about the importance of promoting women executives. Let's say.
Okay.
It wouldn't make it all right to take a whack of money from Goldman Sachs.
I don't have a problem with taking money from Goldman Sachs.
Well, you're on the Real News, and we don't take corporate money, and we don't take government money.
But what I'm saying is she does, and if you're talking about billionaires and you're talking about taking money, so you take a little money from the
But
billionaires.
what I'm getting at is her messaging. I think she's a little cornered here.
I do think she's cornered. But I think where you and I disagree is I think her topic is as important as the money she took. I mean, that is a lot of money for one speech. That's a lot of money per hour.
Millions over the course of the Bill and hers.
If you take, $350,000 or $400,000 for 1 hour speech?
$650,000.
Who makes that kind of money? Nobody.
The Clintons, Bill.
Well, he was president of
And
the United
soon
States.
President Obama, I'm sure.
Right. Oh, President Obama's going to do very well.
Very well.
I think George Bush has done very well.
Her main selling point, I thought, was that he can't win. I can win, and because I can win, I can at least do something. Does her losing here take the steam out of that message?
I don't know. I mean, South Carolina and Nevada are in the next couple weeks. Super Tuesday, what's today, the 9th? So Super Tuesday, there's 20 days left in February, and Super Tuesday is March 1st. We only have 20 days. That's less than 3 weeks for her to put a campaign together and show she can win. That's not long. Because if you come out with big number gaps after Super Tuesday, you're not going to win the nomination.
Well, her campaign has been messaging she will simply close it in Super Tuesday. They've been saying it's over by the end of March.
Well, it will be over or it won't be. I mean, you have a big state that's very important to Democrats, like California. That comes at the very end of the cycle. And if things are up in the air, if there isn't a definitive, if she's got the superdelegate and he's got the delegates, then what happens to a state like California becomes very important.
Yeah, by California, we'll know that breakdown to a large extent.
That's right.
So now
then the other question is, do the superdelegates desert her if she doesn't have the numbers?
Well, that's the question in the final analysis, because if they don't desert her, then what's going to be left of the Democratic Party? Because it's all these young people involved with Sanders. If they feel like there's been a coup against their vote...
Oh, they'll leave the Democratic Party. But that might happen in the Republican Party as well with Trump. We may see the end, or at least the beginning of the destruction, the beginning of the end of our parties, be like the Whigs in the beginning of our country.
And what does Bloomberg do to this scenario?
Well, I'm hearing two things. I'm hearing Bloomberg, and I'm hearing Vice President Biden, Vice President Biden, Vice President Biden. A lot of people say to me, Vice President Biden will not get in the race.
You could end up with a brokered convention if you have a deadlock between superdelegates and delegates, and then Biden comes in as the savior. I mean, I got to tell you, if you want my prediction, and everyone laughs at me, and I probably will deserve to be laughed at. I've been saying this is going to be a Biden-Romney election, because I think you're going to find out something similar on the Republican side. They're going to be in a position where the real money just won't go unless they can flow Kasich. I mean, Kasich may change this scenario.
He's from the great state of Ohio.
I mean, if Kasich may have what the big money wants, in which case they may have a fight with Trump, and if they get Kasich, then forget what I'm about to say.
Right.
But if it really looks like a Trump,
you're going to have the same
split, and
exactly.
maybe either they go to Kasich or maybe Romney comes in on a horse. He got 50% of the vote pretty well last time. He's shown that he can win votes.
No, listen. Normally these elections are kind of a snooze. This is not going to be a snooze. So you and I'll have plenty to talk about.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's a reflection of how unstable the whole political economic system is right now. The stock market is melting. They're on the eve, potentially. People are afraid of a global recession, slowing down in China. They're talking about a Lehman Brothers moment with Deutsche Bank in Germany. Deutsche Bank's stocks apparently have fallen about 40%.
Still have the Greece situation. You have, there's a lot of stuff going on.
We're at a very, very unstable time, and American politics is really reflecting all that. We have some new numbers. I don't think it's going to change anything, but are we going to... Look, can we see it? Here we go. So, 18%. So we're climbing.
I
lost
bet.
my poll. I was saying 15%.
You did.
All right. So I may not. No, I just have to be the closest.
We'll see by the end of the night.
Yeah, unless somebody else went 18, then I'm still won. What do we got on the Republicans here? About the same. Trump is slightly higher, 35-16. So Kasich is a player. Let's leave this graphic up for a bit. Talk a bit about these guys and what do these results mean for the Republicans?
Well, first of all, Kasich, I want to just say, I am very prejudiced. I come from Ohio, so goes the nation. And so I have always thought Kasich was going to do better because I think he's a good governor. Yes, he was a money guy, but he also was in Congress. He knows a lot of systems. So I'm not surprised with Kasich. Ted Cruz, 12%, kind of interesting. Rubio made a very big play in this state, but he also did not do so well in the debate. And Jeb Bush...
the debate really seemed to have hurt him. He was supposed to come out of Iowa with momentum, and instead he fizzled.
Right, and Jeb Bush, I'm just shocked he isn't doing a little better.
Yeah, is now the time big money gives up on Bush, or they wait for some of the bigger states?
I think they're going to wait. I think they're definitely going to wait till Super Tuesday.
There's no reason Kasich wouldn't be acceptable to the same kind of money that's behind Bush.
Absolutely, he'd be acceptable.
So this...
Yeah, no. And what's interesting is Dr. Carson isn't even on here.
That's probably our fault, but on the other hand, he really isn't on there. Do we have a number for the doctor? 2%. But he should have been up there. It's our mistake.
Okay.
2% is still not zero, and he should have been there. At any rate, he's kind of done, one would think. I don't know how he raises money after this. Tell us a bit about Kasich, because I know next to nothing about him.
Well, what's interesting? A lot of people, he got criticized by Donald Trump in, I think, the first or second debate, saying that the reason that he was able to turn Ohio around, maybe Chris Christie criticized him, was because of the oil situation, the fracking or whatever that's gotten Ohio some income. So he's gotten income in the great state of Ohio. He has, and again, he's gotten a lot of criticism from some of the teachers' unions, et cetera, in Ohio, but he also has put his stamp on education. May not be yours and my stamp on education, but he is focused on that. In other words, he has a very different way of doing the way.
What do you mean,
Paul
charter
and
schools and stuff?
Yeah,
like that.
exactly. So he has a very different focus than you or I.
Where's he been on foreign policy issues?
Well, he hasn't really said a whole lot on foreign policy issues yet that I know of, but he has brought jobs to Ohio. He's got something like a 70% approval rating. Even some Democrats are going after supporting him. So he has done well, and he's considered a good administrator.
So he's sort of a Bloomberg type?
Sort of a Bloomberg type, yeah. Not as savvy as Bloomberg, but certainly very solid. And people in Ohio think that he's very solid.
All right, well, we'll dig into Kasich more. He's back. He's on the radar now. In terms of South Carolina, this is going to be a big tell.
Well, everybody thought that Bernie Sanders was going to be fini after this, that Hillary Clinton was going to get the African American vote. Then Ben Jealous from the NAACP comes and he supports Bernie.
Ben Jealous, Cornel West, Danny Glover's in South Carolina campaigning for Sanders now. Michelle Alexander, who wrote The New Jim Crow and has got a lot of influence, she came out, I don't know if you saw on Facebook, attacking the media for distorting the Clinton, both Hillary and Bill's, the real policy and how it affected African Americans. Really strongly came out against Hillary. One could start to see the momentum here, and as African American influencers get more focused on South Carolina, we could see something similar there.
It's going to be
and
very
if that
interesting.
happens, it's really a different game.
If South Carolina is going to bring in African American votes, and we're going to see where they land. And depending on where they land, I think will influence Super Tuesday.
And I think this is going to be a very interesting challenge to what some people call the black elite, the black establishment, because they in South Carolina have been siding with Hillary, as they have in many places.
Well, as you remember, in the olden days, Bill Clinton used to be called the first black president.
Yeah. So if black voters don't go there, now we have to understand, we're based in Baltimore, most people are so fed up with the political process they actually don't vote. And for good reason, because they just don't. More people voted for Obama because they had high hopes. But in other elections, a lot of people don't vote because they feel it's the machine and there's not a heck of a lot to choose between. If people that don't vote normally get excited, and if some of these spokespeople, like the Glovers and Michelle, I'm not saying Michelle Alexander's, I don't know that she's actually endorsed Sanders. She's just been critical of how the media treated Clinton. Certainly Cornel West and, as you say, Ben Jealous. And Ben Jealous is interesting. He's the former head of the NAACP. And the NAACP, I assume that they're supporting Clinton. I'm not sure. Do you know?
I don't know, but I mean, Jealous is such an important figure.
Because he has one foot in that black establishment.
Absolutely.
And so if there's a shift there in South Carolina.
When he came out and made that endorsement, it was shocking.
So sands are shifting.
Yes.
Any final great notes of wisdom?
My only final great notes of wisdom is to watch Kasich. Trump is going to take it away unless somebody comes from behind him. I think people should watch more South Carolina than Nevada. And Super Tuesday is going to separate the girls from the boys.
All right, thanks very much for joining, and thanks for hosting where we are.
Thank you.
We couldn't have
we'll
been here without
city of
Ellen.
Cleveland, Ohio, for the Republican convention.
We will. We'll be there, and that will be a bizarre experience, I am sure.
Not in my hometown, though.
No, but the Republican convention is going to be fascinating. Thanks for joining us on The Real News. More from New Hampshire in just a few moments.